Welcome to NBPD episode. Today I am at Greater New Bedford Vocational Technical High School, where we're going to be doing our episode on youth court. Joining me is Terry, who is the director of the program, and also one of our very own, Officer Leanne Fisher, who is our school resource officer. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And Terry?
Thank you.
So Terry, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, so our viewers can understand what youth court is and how it works.
Okay, Youth Court is a juvenile diversion program for young people between the ages of 8 and 16. It is meant to stop them from getting a first offense on their criminal record. We started in 2002. We are now in year 16. We have 2 youth courts in the South Coast area, one in Fall River and one in New Bedford. The New Bedford one is the longest standing, and it was actually the first youth court in the state of Massachusetts. So as of right now, there's only 2 youth courts in the whole state, and we have both of them here in the South Coast. There are over 1,100, I think, across the United States, but we're lacking a little here in Massachusetts and in the Northeast of having more programs.
Yeah, that's great. For our viewers to understand, again, we're first in the area of Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
To have a youth court, and it's been working really well. Terry, what is the age group that you service?
We have serviced over the years from age 8 clear through till 16. The majority of our respondents are coming from the middle school age. So the 11 to 15 age group is the majority of who we serve on a yearly basis.
Yeah, that's wonderful, especially the younger kids, trying to get them in here early on and divert them outside the court system so they don't have records and all that other stuff and tie up our court system unnecessarily, because they're pretty busy. So maybe you could explain to our viewers, Terry, how do you get the referrals? How does that work? How do these kids end up in youth court?
The referrals come from 3 sources. They come directly from the police department through our SRO division or from patrol. They can come directly from the schools. So a principal or a vice principal or a guidance counselor at the school could make the referral to youth court based on school offenses or misdemeanor crimes, or they come back from the DA's office. So a magistrate or the DA's office decides that young person doesn't have a stain on their criminal record already. They've taken responsibility for their actions and give them an opportunity to come through youth court prior to giving them a hearing or putting them in front of the judge down at court.
So that's great. Terry, also, so our viewers can kind of understand what kind of offenses would put him in youth court, right? So they wouldn't be like a serious offense. If they were carrying a gun or a knife or selling drugs, they wouldn't end up in youth court. What kind of offenses will get them in youth court?
Primarily, the majority of the offenses we have are habitual school offenses or a simple assault and battery, a simple fight in school, petty larceny, small larceny, not grand larceny. A couple of smaller weapons, like bringing like a toy gun or something like that to school. We've taken charges like that. I know marijuana has been, because of the decriminalization, we've seen a little bit of a few marijuana cases coming into youth court, but the majority of it are habitual and chronic school offenses.
So basically, we're looking at mostly misdemeanor crimes, maybe skipping school, truancy. Correct. When you're talking about habitual school offenses, maybe a child got into a pushing match with another child in school that would lead him in here. So, Officer Leanne Fisher, you've been a school resource officer how many years now?
I think 11 years.
And you're doing a great job, by the way. You really are making a difference in these young lives. I've seen how you interact with the kids, and I've seen kids come up to you and thank you after they've left the school. So a big credit to you and the work that you're doing here. As we like to say, you're planting seeds and changing lives, and that's a big deal. So I thank you for that. Officer Fisher, could you maybe tell our audience, explain the benefits from your perspective of youth court and how it's impacting the kids?
All right, excellent. So there's a school resource officer at every trial on Tuesday nights held at VoCTech. And the impact is phenomenal. When you see these young boys and girls coming up and being held accountable and actually taking full responsibility for their actions, it's amazing to see the simple change that you see in them when they get sanctions such as behavior modification camp, or having to simply turn around and say apologize to their guardians and parents or loved ones who's with them. The change that simply comes over them to know that they've done wrong and to know that there's people that care about them as much, and there's programs involved like this diversion program to allow them to change their behavior because we care about them and want to see them succeed in our community. It's amazing. The benefit is far more than you can expect, because that young person that's sitting in that chair realizes I can do better and I want to do better.
Yeah, that's a great point, because they start to realize the support that's around them, from their families, how much their families love them, and the support here at the school or other schools that they go to, because it's just not both kids that are involved. Officer Fisher, when I'm looking around here, this looks like a courtroom to me. Maybe we could get a little scan. You can explain to our audience what they're looking at and how this came to be. This was built by Voc students, correct?
Yes, sir. This was built by the Voc Tech students. Everything in the room, the carpentry section, I think media had something to do with building the infrastructure here. What you're looking at, the cameras viewed to the jury section. So the jury, we normally have an 6 to 8 person jury sitting on the jury panel, and those are all students who volunteer, who are looking for some community service hours, who are interested in becoming maybe thinking about this as their future. So they sit here, and it's also students who have been sitting in the seat for doing something wrong and have come to sit on the panel to better their life. So that's the jury section. On this side, you have the witness stand right here on the left, on my left, the witness stand. So the witness will come up, take an oath, and get questioned over here by the bailiff. We also have a bailiff who sits on that side and takes exhibits A, B, C as they come in. And we also have a judge. It's a different judge every Tuesday. Members of the community. Chief, you have served as a judge once, and we thank you for your support. Ms. Terry has also served. We have members from juvenile court. We have DA's office, teachers, several members of the community are a big impact on what we do here at Voc. So it's not only a Voc Tech implementation, it's a community. It's a community event, because we know that it takes a team and a family to raise these children in our community.
Well done, Officer Fisher. And also in the front here is where you would typically, this pretty much mimics a real court. So in the front you would have the prosecutor on one side, and then the defense team, or the dream team, would be on this side. And I also noticed that most of this equipment is on wheels, so this is easily taken down and moved, correct?
That's right, because this is actually a classroom for the Legal and Protective Services shop. They use this for their crime scene room, so this room has multi-purpose.
Wonderful. Back over here to you, Terry. If we got a little bit of an explanation from Officer Fisher about the staffing of the court, right? So we talked a little bit, you have prosecutors, you have some defense attorneys, your jurors, and your bailiff. Could you talk to our audience and explain not their roles, but how they get to hold that role and who gets to do that?
Absolutely. Do you want me to hold? Absolutely. Our volunteers are from all the area high schools. We have Greater New Bedford Voc, we have Dartmouth, we have New Bedford, and we have Fairhaven high school freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors serving as our volunteers. They are here. They go through a 16-hour training to become the attorneys in our courtroom. They are trained not only by our staff, but also by area ADAs and local attorneys to teach them how to do openings and closings and questioning, and how to prep their witnesses for the stand. Once they've completed that training, they serve as the prosecution and defense teams in our courtroom every Tuesday night. The jury is made up of not just high school students, but also middle school age students. So you have to be age 12 in order to sit on the jury, so 12 to 18. And those are volunteers who are looking for community service, who are doing it for a classroom assignment, who may be doing it as part of extra credit for a class, or anything like that to get more experience. A lot of people come in, sit to be a jury member in order to figure out whether they want to go through the volunteer training and be an attorney in the courtroom. Like Officer Fisher said, a lot of our respondents who are over the age of 12 have to come back and sit jury duty. And part of that is to make sure that they're able to see the courtroom from both sides, to recognize that what I did got me here, but what I did may also help someone else benefit from my experience. And it's not just solely about what I did, it's about me giving back as well. So giving them that opportunity to kind of see the courtroom from both sides and recognize that what they did was either worse than what someone else did, or wow, someone else, there's other people doing some of the same things that I did, and it really doesn't look that good.
Yeah, that is wonderful. It's great to give these kids not only a sense of empathy for their actions, some responsibility, some accountability, but also sounds like you are developing some civic responsibility for them, preparing them to someday really sit on a real live jury. And the fact they have a lot of volunteers and that they get to recycle back through is a great concept. Do you have any statistics on, because you've been doing this for quite a few years, on the impact on the kids that come through youth court, were referred through youth court as an offender? What statistics do we have, or are we able to measure the impact that it's had on them positively and their behaviors?
Well, we measure three things when it comes to how impactful we are on them moving forward. The first one we measure is compliance. So from the start of their referral to the end of their sanction period, we measure compliance. And that means that they've came to their hearing, they got their sanctions, they've stayed out of trouble, they've completed their sanctions, and they're deemed successful for youth court. And 92% of our kids are compliant with the process. So we lose about 8%, which, is going to happen. Okay. But 8% isn't too bad from our perspective. When we look, the other thing we measure is non-recidivism. So them not reoffending, them staying out of the system. And we measure 1 year out and we measure 3 years out. 1 year out of youth court, 82% of our kids have not reoffended and are not in any trouble with the police or the courts. And 3 years out, I think it's 70 or 71% have still not reoffended 3 years out. I make no guarantees after 3 years, but I think for 1 and 3 years, we're doing pretty good.
No, that's better than pretty good. I would say that's almost phenomenal. I'm sure comparative if we get some regular juvenile court statistics, I'm going to assume you're very high, which is great. And really, it's about turning lives around and getting kids on the right track. So that's great. What are some of the sanctions? Sanctions meaning, in regular court, we call it sentencing. In youth court, we're calling it sanctions. So what kind of sanctions typically do you see being meted out to these young kids?
Every respondent who comes through, because it's a no contest court, they have to take responsibility for their actions. So everyone who comes into our courtroom is guilty. So they have to walk out with some sort of sanctioning process. And so all of our kids have community service as one of their sanctions. That's a mandatory sanction for everyone who comes in. They have to serve at least 4 sessions of community service. Those who are age 12 have to serve at least 1 night of jury duty. After that, it becomes up to the jury of what they decide to give them. They can give them apology letters or verbal apologies in the courtroom. It might be an after-school program. It might be a behavioral modification camp run with the New Bedford Police Department. It might be a Project Yes program, which is about substance use and safety and prevention topics. They have essays, or it might be about getting their grades up and showing academic progress. For some of these kids, they get a case manager. Well, all of these kids actually get a case manager after they leave youth court, and that case manager tracks them through the sanction period, talks to them, engages them, helps them make sure that they're completing their sanctions and staying on the right track, keeping them engaged, and hopefully being just another positive impact on them throughout that period to stop them from making those same choices.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, and it's about getting kids to modify their decision making better decisions, right? Vegetables or candy, right? You want to eat vegetables, right? So, Officer Fisher, what is the best part of youth court for you? What do you see as the best part or the most positive aspect of it?
As I said before, the most positive aspect in my eyes is seeing them take responsibility. We see in these young children today, they don't want to take responsibility for their actions, which can better their lives. So that is the most gratifying part, to see them take responsibility and then be open to consenting, meaning they take responsibility, they say, yes, I've done it, how can I get better? So being open to the positivity that is around them and taking advantage of all the tools that Ms. Terry allows them to have to better their life.
That is really, really important, because until you can start taking responsibility and feel accountable, then you really can't. You have to have ownership of it, right? You got to own it before you can try to fix it, and that is a big deal. Officer Fisher, I mean, this is obviously rewarding. I mean, I think your whole job is rewarding, right?
Absolutely.
Everything you're doing is just it's a great gig, right? Do you have a particular case that comes to mind? Either one of you, either you or Terry, particular case that comes to mind, of course, without anonymity, we don't want any names mentioned, that just stayed with you, that was just really impressive. Anything come to mind that you would be willing to talk about?
Sure, of course, without saying any names, I remember it was a few years ago when I was here. I can't remember the situation, but I remember it was a young man. He was very young. He was younger than the normal ages. I think he might have been 12. I don't know. But to me, I hate to see a 12-year-old here making bad decisions. But it happens. But his little brother was in the audience, was sitting in the audience. And when he had to apologize for taking responsibility for what he did, he knows that he hurt his family. He actually apologized to his family along with his baby brother, because he knew that the baby brother was watching him. And he was a role model for that baby brother. So when he said sorry that he'll try to help in the baby brother's life, right, that showed him that I need to be a better person for my community, because there's people watching, especially in his own family. So I don't remember what the case was or what he did wrong, but I remember seeing him apologize to his family along with his baby brother, because he knows he hurt them and that he's watching. And he needs to do the right thing to make sure that the young brother was able to do the right thing.
That's a great story. I would imagine emotions flow here quite often, especially for those who are offending. And that's nice when you can extract real emotions of a responsibility and empathy and sorrow. Sincerely, I think that goes a long way. Terry, do you have any stories that come to mind, or a case that comes to mind that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Gosh, 16 years. I mean, there's so many. There really are. I mean, we've processed over 1,700 kids in the last 16 years. So there's a lot that kind of, have come back. I have a student who was in, Leanne might know him, he was in boot camp for all the way through elementary school. Every year he landed himself in boot camp, and he's on the last test of his GED. He came back to PACA and is going through the GED class because he knew that someone would support him there. He recognized that people and the staff there would, help him make that next impact. We have a young kid right now who started with us a year and a half ago. We've decided to kind of keep him on because we found out through the course of his sanctions that he couldn't read or write. And so he was in 6th grade, not able to read or write. He's now reading at a 4th or 5th grade level in the 6th grade. So making those strides, connecting with that case manager to be able to have enough courage to say, I can't do this for a middle school kid is really scary for them. And they don't always make that connection. So those types of cases, I think, stick with me the most. We also have case managers who have been volunteers, who have come back and now serve as case managers because they're invested in the program and they're taking their first job out of college or while in college still to come back and be a case manager so that they can make a broader impact. And seeing them do that and seeing them invest in the kids is tremendous.
Sure. Well, that's great. What's really interesting about what you were talking about, Terry, is that many of these things are measurable. You're talking about a student that came in here that was having difficulty reading or couldn't read, and was identified through the program might have been causing some of the frustrations why they were offending in the first place. So that's not something you measure. When we're talking about 82% recidivism out of the first year, and 92 and then 82 on the second year, that's not something you would measure. But yet it's success. So there are a lot of other successes that we don't necessarily bean count. So that's just wonderful. But the reality is these are real lives. These are young lives that we're changing, and their families, because as they become more successful and stay out of the system, the better off they are. Terry, could you give us a little bit of background information? I know we're going to be doing a mock trial or reenactment. Could you explain a little bit how that's going to look like and who some of the actors are in it?
Actually, the youth court volunteers and some of the students here at Greater New Bedford Legal Protective Services track were able to put together a mock trial because of the fact that youth court is a closed hearing and we don't allow any of the general public to come in and view youth court. We wanted to be able to give people an opportunity to kind of see how the hearing process takes place. I actually served as the judge, which I never usually do because I'm the director of the program, so that's conflict of interest. But for the sake of the video, we were able to have all of our volunteers, even the respondent in this case was one of our legal and protective service volunteers here at VOC who agreed to play the respondent for the sake of the video. So just an opportunity for people to be able to see kind of what it looks like, how it plays out, that it's not a scary process, but it is real and it is, it's there to hold young people accountable.
Great. So you're going to get a first bird-eyes view as to a mock trial in youth court. So stand by. That's coming up next. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
All rise. All those having business before this honorable court, draw near and you shall be heard. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Terry Bellevue presiding.
You may be seated. I would like to thank everyone for coming here. I'd like to remind everyone that we're here in the interest of serving our community and achieving justice in society. We are not here to determine guilt or innocence, but rather to decide the appropriate disposition for this young respondent, Sawyer Williams. We should base our decision on the goals of youth court to hold the respondent accountable for his or her actions, to repair the harm that she has caused, to develop her skills and competencies so that she can become a productive member of society and connect her back to the community by involving the community in her disposition. At this point, I would ask everyone to please stand and take the oath of confidentiality, indicating I do if you agree. Do you swear or affirm that you will not reveal to anyone what is discussed here in youth court?
I do.
You may be seated. I ask the attorneys to please stand and introduce themselves to the court.
Good evening, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Samantha Miguel, and I'm representing youth court in this matter.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Miles Larkin, and I will also be representing youth court in this matter.
Good evening, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Gavin Alves, and I will be representing Sawyer in this matter.
Good evening, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Casey Bento, and I will also be representing Sawyer in this matter.
Thank you. Jury, at this time, I would ask you to look at the respondent, Sawyer. If any of you have a personal connection with this young woman that will prevent you from sentencing her fairly, then you should remove yourself at this time. Do any of you wish to remove yourself? Thank you. Sawyer, please stand. You have agreed to not contest the charge of selling and using marijuana on 5/21/2018. You were caught under the influence and in the act of selling at school. Is that correct?
Yes.
You may be seated. Prosecution, please present your opening statement.
Absolutely, Your Honor. Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Tonight, you'll hear the case of the respondent, and in so, you will hear how, as the judge stated, the respondent came to school under the influence of marijuana and also in possession of it. While in possession of the marijuana, she was able to put it in another student's backpack. This is obviously unacceptable, and you'll hear more about this as the case progresses. Thank you.
Defense, would you care to make your opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, tonight you will hear the case of Sawyer. You will hear how Sawyer has done some unexcusable things. However, you will also hear how the grades have tremendously improved and how she has not received much support from the home base. Please keep that in mind as the case progresses. Thank you.
Thank you. Prosecution, can you please present your case?
Yeah, sure. We first like to start by reading in the police report as evidence and then submitting it at the end of the case, if that's okay with you.
You may do so.
Thank you. This is to Terry Bellevue from Officer Leanne Fisher. On Thursday, May 21st, Sawyer Williams admitted to using marijuana before attending school. The student arrived to the school under the influence of marijuana. They were also in possession of a bag of marijuana and a pipe. Sawyer boarded a bus to attend a field trip to Patriots Place. While 7th grade was viewing a show in the movie theater located in the complex, Sawyer placed a small amount of marijuana wrapped in a napkin inside a fellow student's lunchbox. This student had given Sawyer $10 prior to the field trip in hopes of purchasing some marijuana. Later, while having lunch at CBS Sports Zone, a student approached Sawyer and asked for some marijuana in her pipe. Sawyer complied with the request and gave the student the pipe and some marijuana. That student was later caught using the drug and questioned by teachers. The teacher then approached Sawyer asking for the bag. Sawyer later admitted to the role in the incident. The pipe and the marijuana was confiscated. Signed, Officer Fisher. And I would also like to read into evidence the conduct history from the Bedford public school system.
You may do so.
Thank you. The student was working in a group independently, working was assigned. Teacher asked to provide a better learning environment, and Sawyer disrupted the class. Sawyer was written up for insubordination, non-compliance, and brought marijuana and a pipe to school. And this was on the 21st of May. Smoking marijuana in the bathroom while on a field trip, possession of marijuana and a pipe, and the sale of marijuana.
Do you have anything else at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Officer Leanne Fish to the stand.
Officer Fisher?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may sit.
Could you please state your name and your occupation, please?
Officer Leanne Fisher, New Bedford Police Department.
Thank you. Now, could you please explain in your own words why the respondent is here tonight?
Well, Sawyer came to school under the influence of marijuana. Sawyer also possessed marijuana and sold it and snuck it into another bag of another student.
All right. What are the requirements in the state of Massachusetts to possess marijuana?
No one under the age of 18 is lawfully able to possess marijuana.
Is the respondent 18 or older?
No.
Thank you very much. No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few. So has Sawyer ever done this or come to school under the influence of marijuana before?
No.
And did she own up to it the first time when you questioned her about it?
Yes.
Did she express any remorse for what she had done?
No, not at all.
Do you believe that she's sorry for what she did?
I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Fisher. You can have a seat. Prosecution, do you have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, at this time, prosecution rests.
Thank you. Defense, would you like to present your case?
Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to call Sawyer to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may be seated.
Can you just start by telling us your name, age, and where you go to school?
I'm Sawyer Williams. I am 13 years old and I attend New Bedford Public Schools.
So can you explain to everybody here, in your own words, why you are here tonight?
I brought marijuana and a pipe, and I also snuck into a student's lunchbox.
And where did you get the marijuana from?
I bought it off a friend,
And how did you get the money to buy this?
off a street.
Are you aware that what you did is illegal?
Yes.
Do you know how old you have to be in possession of
I
marijuana?
have to be 21.
So why did you do it if you knew that it was illegal?
I don't know.
Are you a follower or a leader?
I'm a follower.
Is that why you did what you did?
Yes.
Are you proud of that?
No.
Why do you smoke marijuana?
I was trying to be cool.
So you don't have any
rationale behind it?
No.
How was your home life?
Good.
What does that mean?
I behave at home.
Who do you live with?
My grandmother.
And how are you behaved with her?
I respect her with everything I can do. I listen to her when she gives me chores.
And does she ever have to ask you consistently to do them, or do you do them on the first try?
On the first try.
How do you think your grandmother feels being here?
Disappointed.
How do you feel?
Disappointed in myself.
Since this incident, have you used marijuana or been in possession of it since?
No.
Why did you all of a sudden stop?
Because I felt like it was wrong for me. And I could have got sick.
Okay. How do you think that other student felt when you giving him the marijuana or her?
Probably didn't feel okay that I was doing it.
Okay, but they did pay you for it, correct? How are your grades in school?
They were worse, but now they're getting better.
And why have they all of a sudden changed?
Because I was losing more focus in school.
Did you need the marijuana to focus?
No.
So I'm going to ask you again, why did you use it?
Because I felt like I need to be cool, and my parents left me when I was younger, and that was my only output.
So why do you need an output?
Because I have anger issues.
And what's the reason for your anger?
My parents left me.
Do you think that's an excuse?
No.
Do you understand that a lot of children don't have both their parents or anybody that really cares about them?
Yes.
Do you have any siblings at home?
I have one younger sibling.
And do you think that you're being a good role model for them?
No.
Do you want to be?
Yes.
Do you want to be here tonight?
No.
Why?
Because I'm disappointed in myself.
So what are you going to do to prove to the jury that you're going to change and never use marijuana again?
Well, I'm not going to have possession of it anymore, and I'm going to try to not have my mindset on that. I want to focus in school.
So what are some things you can do during school to not, keep you away from those kids that are making you think of wanting to do this?
Probably just stay away from them and make new positive things in my life.
And is that something that you think you'll be able to accomplish?
Yes.
Are you sorry for what you've done?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, do you have questions for this witness?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Why do you believe that these actions are illegal?
I don't know.
Do you think it could have anything to do with safety?
Yes.
Safety for who?
Safety for students and everybody else.
Do you think that the students in your class felt safe?
No.
Do you think that they should feel safe when they go to school?
Yes.
What's the purpose of going to school?
To learn.
Were you learning in this instance?
Yes.
What were you learning?
To not use it.
Okay. But during the time in which you were selling and using the marijuana, were you learning anything?
No.
Okay, should you have been?
Yes.
Do you believe that it's illegal for anybody under the age of 18 to possess marijuana due to health reasons?
Yes.
What could those be?
I don't know.
What would make you bring the marijuana and the pipe to school in the first place?
Because I wanted to be cool in school.
Would you do this in the future?
No.
Did it make you feel cool?
No.
Is it true that you brought the marijuana and the pipe to school more than once?
Yes.
Did you learn your lesson after the first time?
No.
Why not?
Because I just wanted to keep doing it. Because I wanted to show off to people
What made you learn after the second time?
that I was going to attend youth court.
And if somebody told you the first time that you were going to come to youth court, would you have stopped the first time?
Yes.
Should you have had to be told that you were coming to youth court?
No.
So what made you realize that it was wrong?
Well, I was hurting myself and all my fellow students.
Is it fair that you were hurting your other students?
No.
Should they have felt like that?
No.
Did you ever apologize to them?
No.
When you were first talking to your defense attorney, you said that you were disappointed in yourself. Is that correct?
Yes.
If you were disappointed in yourself, why would you continue this behavior?
Well, I just wanted to be cool and show off to everybody.
If you were being cool and trying to show off, but you were disappointed in yourself, was it worth it all in the end?
No.
No further questions.
Defense, do you have any further questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor, the defense rests.
All right. Sawyer, you can be seated. Defense, would you please present your closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, tonight you have heard the case of Sawyer. You have heard how Sawyer has done some bad things, some unexcusable things. However, you have also heard how this was her first incident, how she complied with Officer Fisher the first time. She has also improved her grades. I'd like you to keep that all in mind as you deliberate. Thank you.
Prosecution, please present your closing statement.
Absolutely, Your Honor. Good evening, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, for the last time tonight. Tonight, you heard the case of the respondent. In doing so, you heard how Officer Fisher stated that she doesn't think she's sorry. She doesn't think she learned anything. You heard how she wanted to be cool. Is she cool sitting here right now? I don't think she is. Now, I ask you to consider the following. If you were in that class, on that field trip, with the respondent, and you found out that she was smoking pot in the bathroom or had given it to another student, would you have felt safe? Would you have felt like that was a safe environment to be learning in? I think the answer is obvious. So tonight, I ask you to give the respondent sanctions that will put her on the right path so that she truly learns that this is not okay. It is never okay to be in possession of a controlled substance when you are under the age of which you need to be able, when you are under the age in which you can possess it. Thank you.
Jurors, you have heard all the evidence and the arguments from both prosecution and defense and are now must determine a proper set of sanctions for Sawyer. Remember to carefully consider what was presented here today. Remember to decide how best to hold Sawyer accountable for her actions. During your deliberations, I ask you to consider the following questions. How can she make up for the harm that she's caused? What skills does she need to develop? And how can we help her reconnect back with her community? When you have reached a consensus decision, the bailiff will alert the courtroom that the disposition is ready for presentation.
All rise. There being no further matters on this case, this court is temporarily in recess while the jury deliberates. We ask that the courtroom be cleared for the next case. You will be called back in when the jury reaches their decision.
Why'd we give him 16 sessions?
We decided to give Sawyer Williams 16 sessions of community service because we feel like if the more community service she does, the more she'll understand why she's wrong.
We said that Sawyer Williams should serve in youth court for 6 nights because she should be able to communicate with other people and learn how to work with other people.
We've decided to have her write an apology to her classmates who were affected by behavior because we feel like having a student being brought to youth court is unnecessary that they have marijuana in their possession.
We, the jury, also said that she should verbally apologize to her grandmother, however, not in court, because we feel that it's needed since her grandmother had put up with so much of her behavior at home and that she has to be here today to listen to. I don't know what I was gonna just, I don't know.
We also decided that Sawyer should do a research project on the effects of marijuana because not understanding why you're using marijuana is a big factor. I feel if she understands the effects and the outcomes of marijuana, she'll understand why it's wrong.
We gave Sawyer a behavioral modification camp because we feel that she needs to learn that there are consequences when she does something wrong. So if we didn't give her the modification camp, she would most likely go back to what she was doing before.
And finally, we've decided to have her academics performance to a B+, so we can figure out if anything else is happening, because as she said herself, her grades were not as good when she was doing the marijuana, but as she is more focused without marijuana, her grades have been improving a lot more than they were.
All rise. The court is back in session.
Everybody, you may be seated. Sawyer, will you please rise? Sawyer, we have decided that in order to help you understand your actions were wrong and that they've affected a lot of people and give you a chance to make up for the harm you have caused, the jury would like to read the sanctions that they have come up with.
We, the jury, recommend that Sawyer Williams receive the following sanctions based on the evidence presented. Sawyer, you'll have to attend school daily and obey all school rules. You will also have to attend 16 sessions of community service. You will have to serve on the youth court jury for 6 nights. You will have to write an apology to your classmates who were affected by your behavior. You will have to verbally apologize to your grandmother. You will have to write a research project on the effects of marijuana. And you will have to attend a mandatory program of Saturday behavioral modification camp and Project Yes. And you will also have to keep your academic performance higher than a B+.
You may be seated. Sawyer, do you understand everything that the jury has read to you?
Yes.
The court finds these sanctions to be fair and constructive and restorative. And I would like to thank you, Sawyer, for being here tonight, for being honest in this courtroom, and for taking the responsibility for the actions that you have chosen to do previous to this case tonight. Youth court's an effective way to restore balance in society and increase skills and competencies of our young people. Sawyer, I hope that I will not see you in any court proceeding moving forward other than being a volunteer in the jury box and coming back and maybe being a volunteer in our courtroom in the years to come. Please visit with youth court staff outside the courtroom after the court goes into recess to receive a copy of your sanctions and learn about how you're going to accomplish those in the next 4 months. This court will take a short recess and reconvene for the next case.
All rise. This court is now adjourned.
So it's a valuable experience for anyone who is thinking about becoming an attorney, or anyone who is in the Fall River or New Bedford area who would like a shot at coming in and doing something that impacts a huge population in our community. Please don't hesitate to give us a call, and when we have trainings, we'll fit you in.
Where are they going to call you, Terry? Can you put that number out there?
508-979-1580.
That's great, and we touched a little bit upon it. I'm glad you reinforced that for all the volunteers here and the experience they get, the courtroom experience, probably more than some get in law school sometimes, in many cases. So you're doing their family a big favor if they decide that they don't want to be a lawyer, saving them $80,000 a year in law school bills. But what you are really doing is building, like we said earlier, is civic duty and community duty to give back to the community and be involved, which hopefully they'll carry with them through their adult life and certainly benefit New Bedford. And the other thing is really important, again, to reiterate, I think for the third time today, is New Bedford was first, leading again, as New Bedford leads in so many occasions in so many different venues and areas. So proud to be in New Bedford and everything that New Bedford is doing. We just have wonderful people like Terry and Officer Fisher. Anything that you want to wrap up with before we say goodnight to our folks at home?
Sure, I would just like to say and remind everyone, all the viewers, that these children are our future, as we know. So if you see the young members of our community, leave them with a kind word, a positive note, so they know that there's people in the community that care, because we know many people care about I have 3 children of my own, and I want to just remind everyone to leave a positive note, say something positive, just say hello to these young people in our community to let them know that people care about them.
Well said, Leanne, well said. I always liked my mantra is a city of one. We're all in this together, and the more we do for each other, from a simple smile, a hold on the door, or encouraging word, can change someone's lives in more ways than we really understand. I've said it many times. There was a case of a young person that was contemplating suicide, and a stranger just happened to smile and say good morning, and that was enough to get them to rethink about what they were going to do. So we really don't know the impact, from the small gestures to the big ones. And if you can't do anything else, I'm a big fan of prayer. Pray for our city. This is a wonderful city. We are a city of one, and we have wonderful people in our city doing great work, leading and being quite innovative. So I thank you, Terry. Thank you, Officer Fisher, for the wonderful work that you do. The volunteers that volunteer to be the judges, and if you want to volunteer, I'm sure you have room. Yes, the students that come and volunteer, and anyone that supports the program, also in Boston, and the legislative side, because this stuff does cost money. So we thank our local legislators, our representatives, our Senator Montigny, Tony Cabral, Kazera, Markey, and so on, for the work that they do to try to get this funded, because it does cost money. And after 16 years, it's hard to put a price on the positive impact that this program has had. So thank you once again, and we thank you for, again, joining us on another episode of Meet NBPD, and we'll be coming up with a new episode, and you'll be meeting some of our finest men and women in the police business in our next episode. So till then, thank you, and have a great day.
When you earn your GED diploma, the barriers in your life fall. Take the first step and get free GED information in your area at 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or yourged.org. Earn your GED diploma and begin your brighter future.